Rest of the Telegram support inboxes I see didn't start as a decisions. They started as an accident. Someone's personal number became the place customers went to complain, ask questions, or report a bug, and nobody ever sat down and designed it that way. It just happened the way these things always happen, one message at a time, until it was too big to ignore. I run managed Telegram hosting and proxy infrastructure for a living, so I end up on calls with support teams after the accident has already happened, when the inbox that used to be one phone in someone's pocket is now something 3 or 4 people are trying to share, and it's starting to crack. By the time someone calls me, they're usually not asking how to set up Telegram support. They're asking why the account keeps getting locked out, or why nobody can tell who already answered a customer. Sometimes it's a two-person shop, sometimes it's a support team of 20 spread across 3 time zones, but the underlying complaint is always the same. Isawan's teams don't pick Telegram because it's the ideal help desk. They pick it because the customers are already there. If your users are in a region where Telegram is the default messaging app, or your community grew out of a Telegram group in the first place, routing support anywhere else just adds friction. People will message you on Telegram whether or not you've built anything to receive it, and a lot of founders learn this the hard way after they've already spent money building a ticketing system nobody uses. So that's the starting point almost every time. One team member fields messages from a phone, and it works fine at low volume, maybe 10 or 20 conversations a day. Then the volume grows, a second person needs access, then a third, and suddenly you're trying to design a system out of something that was never meant to be one in the first place. There are 3 real ways to run support on Telegram, and they behave very differently once you're actually running them, not just reading about them. The first is a personal account that customers message directly. Call it the just use your number approach. There's no infrastructure to build, so it's genuinely fine at low volume, but it ties support entirely to one Telegram identity and one phone number, which means the moment that person is on holiday or leaves the company or their phone dies, support goes with them. The second is a bot built on the bot API. A bot has its own token, it doesn't need a phone number tied to a human, and it can be wired into a webhook that forwards every message into whatever system your team actually works from. A help desk tool, a shared queue, a dashboard you built yourselves. This is the option that scales cleanly, because adding a tense agent is a permissions change in your own backend, not a new phone number to manage. The third is a Telegram business account, a feature Telegram added for accounts that want to present as a business while still being a normal, human-facing account rather than a bot. It comes with a greeting message, an away message, business hours, and quick replies, all built into the client itself, so it feels closer to a real inbox than a bare personal account does. These 3 are not upgrades of each other. They are different architectures with different trade-offs, and picking the wrong one is usually what leaves a team 6 months later saying our Telegram support is a mess. Here's the part that actually catches people off guard. A Telegram account can be logged into multiple devices and sessions at once: phone, desktop, web, another desktop, and every one of them shows the same conversations in real time. Message history syncs instantly across every active session tied to that account. So if you log in on a laptop in the office, you'll see the exact same chat someone else was replying to on their phone 5 minutes earlier. That sounds convenient for a team right up until you try to use it that way. If 3 agents are logged into the same personal or business account from 3 different sessions, there's no built-in way to know who's already replied to a customer, who's mid-conversation, or who's typing. 2 people can end up replying to the same message within seconds of each other, and the customer notices before your team does. Telegram's client wasn't built for multi-agent handoff. It was built for one person using a few of their own devices. Teams that try to force it end up building a workaround outside Telegram entirely, a shared spreadsheet, a Slack channel, just to coordinate who's answering what. I've watched teams build an entire second dashboard just to track who's talked to whom, which is a strange amount of engineering effort spent working around a messaging app instead of just picking the setup that fits the job. Once you've built a second system to manage the first one, that's your sign the account sharing model isn't right for the volume you actually have. When tadak nas team sustain na planis tentang papasi, 12 sikim na pentim friendly nintin, plitins tentang dambility nin pai. And logging in from different networks or devices in quick succession is exactly the pattern that trips Telegram's own security checks, a fresh verification code, a new login prompt, sometimes at the worst possible moment because someone on the other side of the world just logged in from a new IP. I've seen a team lose access to their support account for an entire afternoon over exactly this, right in the middle of a product launch. The bot API sidesteps that problem by design. A bot is a single identity your backend controls, not a phone number your team passes around between shifts. Set a webhook and every incoming message gets pushed to your server the moment it arrives, and your own system decides which agent it goes to. The client-level session mess never enters the picture because your agents aren't logged into the bot the way they'd log into a personal account. There's nothing to sync, nothing to hand off, because the bot itself never moves between devices in the first place. There's one constraint worth knowing before you build around this. A bot can't start a conversation with a user first. The user has to message the bot or add it to a group before the bot can reply. For support, that's rarely a problem, since customers are the ones initiating anyway. But it matters if you are picturing proactive outreach through the same channel. That distinction trips people up more than you'd expect, especially teams coming from email support, where reaching out first is just normal practice. That's a different use case with its own rules. On throughput, Telegram documents its own flood limits for bots, something like 30 messages a second in aggregate, but no more than one message per second into the same chat. For a support desk replying to individual conversations rather than blasting anything out, that ceiling is not something you bump into in normal operation. It only shows up if a webhook fails partway through a backlog and your system tries to catch up all at once, which is an integration bug, not a Telegram limitation, and it's usually fixed by adding a small delay in your retry logic rather than by rethinking the whole setup. If what you actually want is a human presenting account that customers can message and get a real person on the other end, but with some of the structure a bot gives you, Telegram Business is the middle option. It's a real account tied to a phone number with business hours to show customers when you're active, an away message for outside those hours, a greeting for first contact, and quick replies you trigger with a shortcut instead of retyping the same answer for the 5th time that day. The trade-off is it's still one account, same session and device considerations as a personal account, just with a nicer set of tools on top. One or two people handling support, wanting it to feel personal rather than automated. This is a reasonable fit, and honesty is the option I point most small teams toward. A team rotating through shifts, and you're back to the same coordination problem a shared personal account has, quick replies or not. This is where my end of things actually comes in. Whichever of the three setups you pick, the account or bot session needs to stay connected and stay trusted by Telegram's own systems. And that's largely a function of network stability, not anything happening inside the Telegram client itself. That's not a Telegram limitation you can code around. It's a networking problem, and networking problems get solved with better networking, not cleverer software. A support inbox that keeps dropping connection or gets logged out and needs a fresh code entered before anyone notices isn't a Telegram problem so much as a hosting and connectivity problem. If your team is spread across countries and everyone's connecting from wherever they happen to be that day, home, a cafe, a different office each week, you're generating exactly the session churn that trips Telegram's abuse detections. Since rapid changes in IP and device for one account look identical whether it's a legitimate distributed team or a compromised login. Telegram can't tell the difference from the outside, so it defaults to cautions. We host Telegram sessions on stable, consistent infrastructure for exactly these reasons. An account that connects from the same environment every time doesn't give Telegram a reason to ask questions, and it doesn't go dark the moment you need it most. It sounds almost too simple to matter, but stability is the one thing you can't fake your way around once an account's under scrutiny. Proxy configuration matters here too, especially for teams with members in regions where direct access to Telegram's servers is unreliable or restricted. A properly configured mtproto proxy keeps the connection consistent from the account's point of view, instead of the session hopping between whatever network each agent happens to be on that day. Consistency, not speed, is what actually protects uptime. And it's the single biggest lever I see teams underestimate when they're troubleshooting a flaky support account. A few habits are worth adopting regardless of which setup you run. If you're on a personal or business account, keep two-factor authentication turned on and check the active sessions list once in a while so you know exactly what's logged in and from where. If you're running a bot, keep the webhook endpoint monitored so a silent failure on your server doesn't look like Telegram going quiet, because from the outside those two failures look identical. And decide early whether you actually need several people inside one Telegram identity, or whether a bot routing into a real queue would save you the coordination headache later, because the earlier that call gets made, the less you have to rebuild once volume actually picks up. None of this is about squeezing more out of Telegram than it's built for. It's about matching your setup to how the platform actually behaves, sessions, sync, rate limits, and all, so the inbox stays reliable instead of turning into something your team has to babysit. If you want your support account or bot running on infrastructure built for exactly this kind of uptime and connection stability, that's managed Telegram hosting and proxy infrastructure on dedicated SG hardware, and that's what we run day in and day out at telegramvault.org. That's the full breakdown, and it's all written out in more detail in the article this video is paired with, so go check that out and subscribe if you want more of this straight talk on running Telegram infrastructure properly.